The LYB podcast is sponsored by Fight Energy. Fight Energy is your all-in-one health drink. You have nootropics, 0 calories, 125 milligrams of caffeine, as well as your daily dose of vitamins to keep you feeling your best. You can order Fight at danityfitness.com. Make sure you use code LYB for 25% off. And we're even going to throw in some travel packs for any purchase. And let us know, are you team strawberry or team blueberry? And when you drink Fight, make sure to tag Danity Fitness 1 on socials to share. Hey everyone, welcome to LYB podcast. On today's episode, we have Miss Jenny Goforth. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. I know we were just talking about how we don't know how we haven't met before, but you said your husband thinks that we had met?
I think we met years ago.
Okay.
There was a gym in Brentwood, and
Okay.
you were leading the dance crew there.
Okay.
And he says we met, but it had to have been like 8 years ago, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Because I was like, literally, I started Dandy Fitness in 2017, and then it was 2016 when I was like in Franklin and in that area.
Yep.
So, so I would like pop into different like Zoom instructors classes and do my Move Fit, or I would do like my Find Your Fit festivals and stuff like that. So maybe like in one of those.
Maybe way back in the day. So I've known of you for a long time, and I'm like, we have got to meet. We have a lot in common.
Yes. No, it seems like that. And I think I had seen you on maybe it was like Spread the Positive, like Trends podcast, or was it, I don't know. You went on some podcast like a long time ago, and I had seen you on there, and I think you were talking with your husband.
Yes.
Yes. And so that was really cool. And so I just like kind of loved, your whole story and everything like that. So for those who don't know you, introduce yourself a little bit and tell them what you do.
Yeah. So I am Jenny Goforth Hickerson. I go by all the names. My company is Goforth Wellness, but I've actually been in the fitness industry for 25 years.
Okay.
Long time.
Yeah.
And I've had my own company for about a year and a half.
Okay.
So I help women shred inflammation.
Yes.
I help them get to the root of their issues and, of course, lose weight and feel their best.
Yeah. I love that. And so what was what kind of got you into like fitness and movement, like in the beginning?
Yeah. So it's funny. I did not grow up athletic. I grew up in music. So I was the theater choir girl.
Okay.
And always wanted to be a singer. So right after high school, I came to Belmont.
Okay.
And, my whole goal was actually not to graduate college. I was going to get a record deal.
Of course, right?
And then I graduated with a music degree. But my freshman year, actually it started my senior year of high school.
Yeah.
I was thrown into a women's weightlifting group.
Okay.
So I'm like 85 pounds, hate working out. Like I'm literally the girl that writes my own notes to get out of PE.
Okay, yes.
Didn't want to sweat, didn't like working out at all. So I get thrown into this class my senior year of high school, and it's all weightlifting. So the first day, the teacher says, your whole grade is based on your progress. So we all gathered around the bench bar.
Okay.
We're going to see how much we could bench press.
Yeah.
So I get up there. It's so intimidating. I've never lifted a weight in my life. Yeah. I get up there with a 45-pound bar, and it just falls on me.
Oh,
and everyone laughed.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't like when people laugh at me. So I decided that one semester, you know what, I'm going to take this serious. Yeah. And me and another girl who was not athletic, we had our little workout. He gave us a workout. He showed us our form.
Yeah.
And, the athletic girls that were in the class, they were just kind of goofing off and hanging out because it was a class you could do whatever. So we worked our butts off. And about a month later, I'm like seeing little muscles growing. I'm like, ooh, I like this. I'm wearing my tanks. And then the last day of that one semester, we all gather around that bench press.
Okay.
And I get up there and I bench 95 pounds,
Heck yeah.
more than what I weighed.
Yeah.
And nobody laughed.
Yeah.
That sparked my interest because I was like, I'm like really strong.
Yeah.
Like freakishly strong. So then I go to Belmont to study music, and my roommate was a power lifter.
Okay.
And I'm like, I know about lifting weights. I did it for a semester. I'm really strong.
Yeah.
So we lift weights together, and then we sign up for an aerobics class.
Okay.
Day one of that class, I see the instructor with her mic, and I'm like, I'm going to be her. And my friends kind of laughed. They're like, what are you talking about?
Right.
I'm like, no, I'm going to study. I'm going to teach group fitness.
Yeah.
I don't know why I'm so drawn to this.
Right.
I don't know if it's like the performer in me, or I just am getting such an interest in fitness.
Right.
So I like to say I just kind of fell into it.
Yeah.
At 18 years old.
I love that so much. So that was you said you got into group fitness, like to become an instructor your freshman year of college. Is that what it was?
Yeah. So while studying music, I studied and got certified.
Yeah.
And then, I tried to go to gyms to get hired with no experience. I had a certification.
Yeah.
And I landed at the club in Green Hills.
Okay.
Which is way back in the day.
Yeah.
Before boutiques were what they were.
Yes.
That was like the boutique of Green Hills.
Okay.
And they hired me to teach a sculpting class.
Okay.
And I had maybe 10, it was a really small class, but maybe 10 older women.
Okay.
I'd say 50 and up.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
So I just winged it.
Yep.
They didn't like me. They complained about me. The person who hired me was so sweet. She took me under her wings and she was like, you're going to be good.
Yeah.
But let me help you.
Yeah.
This is your music. This is how you need to count the workout. This is how you put a workout together.
Yeah.
So it all started from there. And then I ended up over the years teaching every fitness class, like one of the most sought out aerobics instructor, fitness instructor in town, from Donaldson to Bellevue to Green Hills.
That's awesome.
All over the place. And it just grew.
No, everyone probably listening is like, wow, this sounds so similar. Like, because I started in UT Knoxville. And so I danced my whole life. So the whole performer mindset, competitive, dance to dance team at school, then dance in a competition, and did all of that. And so my dream was to like be like a backup dancer for like J-Lo or Missy Elliott. Like that was like what the vibe was. And I got into a dance college, but then parents were like, you're 17, like, let's just have you go to UTK, like University of Tennessee, Knoxville. So like, okay, I get there. I'm like, I was so dramatic. I threw away my dance stuff. I was like, I'm never dancing again. I'm like, and then I was like, I'm never doing like whatever. And so, but I never had done weight training. I didn't have classes like that in high school because dancers, we didn't need to weight train, right? Yeah. Big mistake. I really wish they would have done that. That would have been amazing. But like it was, but yeah, so I was just kind of like, okay, I'll go to the gym. I remember going to the T-Rex there and I literally, the first day was like, I don't want to sweat. I don't want to do this. Like, I was like, this is awful. Absolutely not. Like, I felt like I feel like a clone. Everyone was wearing the oversized tanks and we're all on treadmills and all the dudes are lifting, but all of us are on the trails. And I was like, absolutely not. Didn't step foot in there again. Until sophomore year when this girl who she had a different type of build, she was an athlete. And I remember her saying, she was talking, kind of boasting that she was auditioning for group fitness. And I was like, oh, like, what does that mean? What does that entail? And she's like, oh, well, like, I'll have the private back room and can teach classes, the mirrors. I'm like, oh, like a dance studio. So I'm thinking like, oh man, that sounds cool. I was like, well, could you kind of like use your book to like study? And she was like, no. And I was like, cool, I'll see you at the audition. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, I mean, again, hadn't moved in like a year. I'm X amount of body fat, weight, whatever. And I was just like, drinking, was very depressed and stuff. And I was like, I got to do something. And so that's sophomore year. I went to the audition, met my mentor there. And the rest is history with that. I fell in love with group fitness. I was able to cultivate kind of like what you're saying in that gym or in that space. Like you kind of learn and could teach because the kids just wanted to move, Right. So I'm trying different things and like that. So I totally relate on that.
That's so cool.
And that's awesome. And so when you were here, so did you grow up in Nashville? Like
no. So I'm from North Carolina.
Oh, okay. And then you came to Belmont for school.
Right.
Okay. And so you're teaching, you're crushing classes and all that. So was it, at what point did you switch to doing more personal training or was it both or?
Yeah. So after I graduated, I was doing the country music thing. I had my band and we were doing some touring and we had a lot of awesome things happening. And so in the meantime, I was teaching like 15 classes a week. And one of my friends at the gym was like, why are you teaching all this? Because back then you actually did the workouts with them. It wasn't like an Orange Theory where you just coach. And so they were like, why don't you get into personal training? And I was like, you're right. You can make more money. It's better for your body. So I just kind of made that transition while I was coaching classes. And then I was still able to do the music thing with it.
Do you look back on that and be like, how did I do that? Because like with the classes,
yes.
Because there's some days where like, so Move Fit's my dance format, that I literally did it like 3 times in one day. And I'm like, how? I was like 24, running around, 23, whatever. And I'm like, how did you do this? And I mean, and that was on top of a workout. And on top of running like 5 miles that morning.
Exactly.
Like, and I was subbing all these classes because I ended up teaching at, so I got my first job when I came back from Vermont to, in Franklin at Prairie Life Fitness.
Yeah.
So, and that's where I got my intro. And so I would sub for all the moms that would call out for classes. So, I mean, I'm sitting there doing membership and they're like, hey, go put some workout clothes on. She's not gonna show up to the class.
Right.
So I'm literally going in and out, doing water aerobics. I mean, so there was like, sometimes it was like 8 classes a day.
Crazy.
And I did
you would just get that call and go.
Yeah. And I literally did all of the classes and I'm like, in what world? I think it's crazy. So I think back on that fondly, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that was wild.
I taught body pump for 10 years. And it was the one class I was like, I'm never going to let that go. I had such a good group.
Yes.
I mean, we hung out all the time after class and But there were days I taught like 3 or 4 body pumps in one day, and I would go all out with my weights in every single class.
Yes. So
it's crazy.
Well, and I think that we have similar experience on this too, that like you were very much in like the group fitness of that vibe. What was like, did you have the nutrition with that, or were you just like running yourself into the ground? You know what I mean? Because you're like working out, burning all these calories, and then just kind of eating like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I didn't back then. And actually, during that time of personal training and group fitness, I actually fell into martial arts.
Oh, okay.
In my mid-20s. So before I ever got into nutrition, I was doing all of that and not knowing how to eat. So I was a vegan for a year and a half.
Okay,
I was maybe eating 1,200 calories while doing all of the things.
Yep.
I fell into Taekwondo, I think around 25 years old.
Okay.
I took a kickboxing class. Actually, I had gotten certified for turbo kick back in the day. Very dancey kickboxing. On the beat. And I felt stupid doing it. I'm not much of a dancer. I like to dance, but I'm not good at teaching dance. And I was like, I don't know. Like turbo kick is not going to be my jam.
Yeah.
So I took someone's kickboxing class at a gym I was working at, and it was like strong. Like I felt like I was actually kind of good at it by the end of the class.
Right.
And this girl was shredded to pieces, 6-pack. And so I go up to her and I'm like, who are you certified with? Because this is what I want to teach.
Right.
She goes, I'm not certified. I'm a black belt. Oh, I'm like, well, crap. I got to go be a black belt now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And that was literally just how I was. I was like, that's so cool. She's so cool. I'm going to do this.
Right.
So I didn't know anything about martial arts. I called every school in the area just to see if I could like get in and try it out. And one called me back, and it was a Taekwondo school.
Okay.
I said, come on in, try out class on Saturday. So I go in. Day one of just being there, I sign up, I buy all the gear, all the fighting gear.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I am an all or nothing person.
Yes.
So tell me how long it's going to take to get my black belt.
Yeah.
And they're like, I mean, if you go straight through, you could do it in 2.5 years for adults.
Okay.
But you can't miss a test. You can't fail.
Right.
You can't get sick.
Yeah.
And so I marked it in my calendar, and I'm like, 2.5 years, I'm going to be a black belt.
Okay.
And so for 2.5 years, that's all I did. Well, I ended up falling into a job there.
Okay.
And so I was running the office kind of stuff. And then when I got my black belt, I started teaching. I went through their certifications to be an instructor. So I taught martial arts for a good 6 years.
Okay.
Made it to my 3rd degree black belt.
Okay.
Competed. Wow. So during that time, I toured the U.S. and competed for the world title.
That's amazing.
It took a lot to get there because my very first tournament, I got my butt kicked.
Right.
And in Taekwondo, it's all about kicks to the head.
Yeah.
So the more kicks to the head, the more points. Well, at 4'11", it's
absolutely not. Absolutely not for me. But go ahead, keep talking.
At 4'11", it's hard for me to kick anybody's head.
Right.
And it wasn't a height thing at these tournaments.
Wow.
So it was by your age.
Oh, so you could be with anybody.
Yes.
Oh my
gosh.
gosh.
And it never failed. At a lot of the tournaments, like, and I heard you talking about this with competing in the strongman, you kind of see the same people.
Yeah.
So in the U.S., we would tour to different cities, and I would see the same girls.
Yeah.
So there was one that was like 6'1", and it never failed that I got matched with her.
I'd be like, don't look at me.
And there's no way I'm beating her.
Yes. Oh, man.
But I toured for, I would say, 2 years to rack up points to get in the top 10.
Okay.
And then those 10 people meet at the world tournament.
Okay.
That is the only tournament they line you up by height.
Okay.
So that's my only tournament I get to fight girls my size.
I love that. Yeah.
But right at the end of 2012, I got the world title.
Okay. Amazing.
And, I had worked so hard for it. And I'm that kind of person where it's like, you achieve something and then I'm like, okay, what's next now?
Right. Yeah.
And so I kind of got to the point with martial arts that it's like you either open up your own school, you make this your life. Like at 3rd degree, people do make it their whole career.
Oh, okay.
And I was still coaching classes and doing everything.
Yeah.
And I was definitely going to open up my own Taekwondo school in Murfreesboro.
Okay. Yeah.
And during that time, I came across a good friend of mine competing in bikini bodybuilding.
Okay.
I'm like, I reach out to her because I'm like, you look amazing. She was like 52 years old.
Right.
I'm like, I do all this stuff. I eat right, and I don't look like you.
Yeah.
But I know I'm strong, and I know I've got muscle. You know, it's been years of in the making. But I reached out to her, and I'm like, will you coach me? And she goes, I don't coach, but I can give you some advice on what teams to join.
Okay.
So in my mind, while I'm trying to open up this Taekwondo studio, and that's taken a long time for the negotiation and the lease.
Right.
I'm like, I think I'm going to do this bodybuilding thing.
Okay.
Knew nothing about the world.
So you try to take on bodybuilding while doing all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I had gotten my world title. So at that point, I'm like, I don't want to compete in it anymore. Like I kind of reached that goal.
Right.
That's awesome.
Right.
Now what?
Yes.
And I was like,
totally
now I want to look like her.
Okay. Yeah. So you did all the strength. You did, you had all this, success in that sport. And you're like, okay, on to the next. So I did want to ask you though, real quick, where was the Taekwondo studio that you went to? Taekwondo?
Yeah, so it's in Cool Springs.
Okay.
And it was ATA Karate. So
Okay.
it's American Taekwondo Association.
Okay, gotcha.
So at the time, they're the largest in the world.
Okay.
So on that world tournament, for the whole season, I competed with the U.S. girls.
Okay.
At that world tournament, they come from all other countries.
Yes, which
so
is
then
amazing.
you don't know. Then it's kind of intimidating because you haven't seen them fight. You don't know,
Right,
how they're going to do.
And what years was that when you were doing?
That was 2012, 2013.
Okay, cool. And so you see this lady that you're friends with. She's doing bodybuilding, and you're like, okay, like I want to get into it. So you got a coach, and
I got a coach.
Yeah.
And the Nashville show was in 8 weeks.
Okay.
And I go to him. I was on Team Haynes.
Okay.
I go to Tony. I don't know if you know him or not, but I go to him and I'm like, I want to compete in 8 weeks. And he was like, I don't know. I don't train girls in 8 weeks.
Right.
So he says, I'll take you on.
Yeah.
And we'll see. He was like, you got a good start.
Yeah.
So I'll take you on. We'll train. We'll do legs once a week together because I'm short. And that is, my legs will take years to get it to where I actually need them to get.
I got you.
So he was like, each week, we'll just take it week by week, and I'll tell you if you need to be on that stage or not.
Okay.
So I start training. I give it my all. Now, during that time of doing that bodybuilding program, I was still teaching Taekwondo. I was still teaching body pump. I was still personal training. Like, I never stopped.
Yeah.
And I would say to him, like, I'm doing all this cardio. Do I still have to do my fasted cardio?
Right.
Yes.
Oh,
so
my
on
gosh.
top of all
That's
that.
the worst. That's like a smack in the face. You're like, no,
was
no,
a
like,
lot
I'm
of
doing
cardio.
No, I felt the same way because I would do Move Fit, and I was like, hey, like that's my cardio, and they're like, no, and I'm like, no, it's
No,
like
now
really,
you got to go do other cardio.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, I just like burned 1,000 calories
Right.
in Move Fit, and you want me to go? I was like, absolutely not, but I did it still. But I get that.
No,
so,
it was a lot. And each week in the posing, he would say, okay, you're getting closer. You're getting closer. And then I would say by like 2.5 weeks out, he was like, oh yeah, you're going to compete.
Okay.
And I'm like, okay. So I ordered my bikini. I didn't even know that it needed to be bedazzled. So I order like the cheaper plain one.
Yes.
And I take it to him and he's like, you got to get jewels on this.
Yeah.
So I hired someone to add the jewels to it.
Okay.
Like I was just learning every week. And that first show I did, there were so many girls, and I was so nervous. Like I was never the girl that would even walk down the beach in a bikini.
Okay.
Even at my best fit, I mean, I was like 90 pounds back in the day.
Yeah.
I still was just so modest. So I'm like, for me to get on this stage, I'm literally shaking.
Right.
Well, the funny thing is, from all of my martial arts days, like that competing was hard. Mm-hmm. And so when I took on bodybuilding, I thought, this is going to be easy. Like you literally walk across the stage.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm like, I've competed in way harder things. This is going to be a breeze. And it was so difficult.
Yeah.
People don't know until they do it.
Right.
What all you go through to build up to that.
They just think you get up there and pose, and it's like, whatever.
Right.
And it's like.
And that's what I thought when I saw my friends do it. I'm like, that's it. She just has to get up there and turn around.
Right. And it's so much more.
So much more.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I loved someone telling me, and I loved what my body did. In 8 weeks, it was drastic.
Yeah, for sure.
It was
I mean, you put in the work in terms of, you're like, I have this goal. I'm going to do it. Like, and it seems like that's, again, the whole mindset behind your entire, life of just like, no matter how extreme it seems or whatever it is, you're like, I'm going to go accomplish it. And I love that.
Yeah.
So when you did the show, which show was it?
That was the Music City Muscle.
Okay.
And
that
this was around 2015.
Okay. Where was it at? Like
it was in Nashville.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah,
so you did that, and then after that, like what happened when you were there?
So in that show, I placed the whole time I was training. I'll tell you this with mindset.
Yes.
Because I teach this in my program now with women. The whole time I was training and running, on that treadmill every morning and every night, I was repeating to myself, you're going to be in the top 5. You're going to be in the top 5.
Yeah.
So I placed 5th.
Oh.
In every category, 5th place.
I love that. Though,
which I didn't even know that was actually a qualifying show.
Oh, okay.
So, no, that one wasn't the qualifying show. I placed 5th.
Okay.
Next week, there was Kentucky Muscle.
Okay, yeah.
And my coach was like, now listen, you did great in that show. I think you need to go to Kentucky.
Yeah.
And you're ready. You need to go. And so I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to go to Kentucky.
Yeah.
I go to Kentucky. I place 2nd.
Okay.
And, the first show, my coach was a judge in the Music City Muscle.
Okay.
And I didn't know how anything worked. There's a massive panel of judges.
Right.
But I'm like, did I get fifth because I'm on this team? Does that
yeah.
play a role? I didn't know.
Right.
But when I went to Kentucky, I knew no one.
Yeah.
And then I did even better there.
Yeah.
And my coach calls me up and he's like, girl, you qualified. I'm like, what did I qualify for?
Right. Yeah,
and he's
yeah.
like, for your pro card, you can go
Yes.
compete in nationals. And I'm like, okay. So I did like a show in Murfreesboro. I did a couple others. And then I went to nationals.
Awesome.
And it was just, I had a great run of it. Like
Yeah.
I'm so goal oriented that I'm like, maybe I could go pro.
Right. So, okay. So tell me, so in the course of time, like from the first show to then going to nationals, how long was that?
Less than a year.
Okay. So
I just competed back to back to back.
Yeah. Which is hard on the body.
Yes.
So when you went through that, kind of like, you get to nationals, and then what was it like there? Were you just like, was it what's the word? Like exciting to where you're like, okay, I could see myself going pro, or were you just kind of like, oh, I'm with all these people. It's going to take me a longer time to get to pro.
Yeah. I think when I qualified, you sometimes hear about people going pro pretty early.
Yeah.
Now my coach was always realistic with me.
Yeah.
And so he told me, you're not going to go pro at the show.
Right,
I'm just letting you know,
right.
but we're going to get you there. You're going to do the best you can do.
Yeah.
So I drove myself to Charleston.
Okay.
And I didn't stop. And when I got there, I take pictures for the coach, and he was like, oh, your legs are holding so much fluid.
Yeah.
And so he's like, we got to dehydrate you early.
Gotcha.
So I had that against me, and
Yeah.
already my legs are like my biggest struggle. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh crap.
It's just 'cause at the time you're competing in bikini. Right?
Bikini.
Okay. Yeah. So.
And at some of those shows, so my upper body just gets completely shredded.
Yeah.
I had great abs from Taekwondo,
Yes,
which I wish abs were
I know.
more of it.
Right.
But, some of the judges at the smaller shows questioned which category I was in because I was
yes.
so muscular up top.
Right. Yeah.
But I wasn't big enough to move up.
Okay, I see.
So,
Yeah, which
definitely
is always
bikini.
hard because again, too, you didn't have wellness then because that was new.
Right.
Like,
The
it wasn't-
wellness is cool.
Yeah, and so that wasn't the thing, yet. And so that was something that that was the only reason I went into wellness was because of my legs. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And because that's what they said they wanted. But then it became one of those things where it was the first year, so like they didn't know really what they wanted. So then they saw girls with like the bigger glutes and like, oh, actually, we're going for the glutes.
Oh, now we
and
want
like
the bigger butt.
And I'm like, well, I don't have the booty. It's like from the front, they were like wellness. And I turn to the side and they're like, not. So like, you know what I mean? But it still is, again, exciting and fun and loved it. But your journey with the bodybuilding reminds me of with me with strongman, because I literally found out about strongman and then 2 weeks later went to a
You're
competition
competing.
and won. And then literally then found out that I could potentially go to nationals. But they're like, you competed in August, nationals in October.
Right.
Find a show in between, qualify, and then you can go. And I'm like, well, my coach, my trainer's going, and my coach is going to be there. And so I'm like, I want to go with the guys, And so I literally went to West Virginia, nowhere, and competed and got like the strongest woman in the force or whatever,
Yeah,
and
that's
won,
awesome.
and so qualified for nationals. And so it was like boom, 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 got 15th in the country, and so I felt really good about that because they're like, who's this chick? Like brand new. And then it starts over after that. And so you have to then go to
Go
the
do it
next
again.
competition and then qualify again. So went to the next competition, qualified again, and then did like two. One was the one where I flipped the tire, that one. And then I was like, so I qualified for the nationals, went to it again, and then just realized for me, it was like, it was kind of that dream of like, yes, I'm going to get to the Arnold, or I'm going to become, pro in this or whatever. I didn't really even really know the structure. I was just
Right.
like, I just took it this by
You're
this.
just going for it.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of
Yep.
just in it. So I love that whirlwind of like, it was exciting. It was fun. You
Yeah.
didn't really have this, not say you didn't have pressure, but it was just like, it was more fun for me. Right. And I felt really good at it. And then when I got to that second nationals and realized that I beat the girls that were not on steroids, and then all the steroid girls beat me. You see
Yeah.
what I mean? It was one of those where I was like, yeah, there's no way. You know what I mean? I remember deadlifting 405 for 4 and being so proud of that. And then the girl behind me was repping like 16 reps. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I could even, you know what I mean? I'm like logically,
Yeah, I don't know if that's even real competition.
like strength wise, I'm like, this is it was such a drastic difference that
Yeah.
it was just like, and I held my own and whatever, but it still was just, yeah. So so after that, I was kind of like, the next competition I did after the year started again, that's when I got injured. And so tried to hold on to it for a
Yeah.
year, did my best. And then I was like, I got to pivot. I got to do something.
Yep.
I'm competitive. I want to do something. And that's what led into the bodybuilding. Because I was like, oh, well, let's talk about the food part. Because I was out there eating like a strong woman. You know what I mean? Like, and then still when I was injured, was still eating kind of like a strong woman. So it was just kind of like, I never like had that good, that good structure with it. Because I tried to be on meal plans and stuff like that with strongman, but then it was like you do the weight cuts and, it was just always kind of frustrating. So anyway, so got into bodybuilding. So when you did that, so you get to nationals, how long did you compete after that?
That was it.
Okay.
Because like I told you, I was opening up my own Taekwondo studio, and my gut was really nervous about that because I didn't know if that was going to be like my life.
Yeah.
And I thought, I was going through a divorce at the time, and I thought, you know what? I guess those are going to be my kids. Mm-hmm. This is going to be my business. Like, this is just what I'll do the rest of the life is run a school.
Right.
And something in my gut was just uncertain about it and really nervous about it. During that time, my now husband hit me up on Facebook, and he's like, girl, I've been following your bodybuilding journey. So Vinny, he goes by Big Vinny.
Not sliding into the Facebook, Vinny. Okay.
And I almost didn't answer him back.
Yeah.
But I had met him before. Like, we knew each other from our early 20s doing the music scene.
Okay.
His band got signed with Toby Keith. They were on tour.
Cool.
And then he went on to The Biggest Loser TV show.
What?
So.
What? I didn't know this.
Yes.
What year was he?
You need to have us both here.
I know. What year was he on there?
It's been 12 years now. So he was on season 12 of The Biggest Loser. And it was right when Jillian, it was the first season without her.
So who was Jen? Did Jen come on there? When did Wiederstrom or no?
Not her yet. It was Dolvette and Anna Korakova, the tennis player.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
That year.
Wild. Okay, wait, did he, I didn't watch it.
So he was Final Four.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
And cool story about us. This is such a cool story. I got to share it. So like I said, we met in music, just knew of him. So he was 500 pounds, wears overalls, life of the party. The first time I met him, he had like all these really pretty girls around him. He's in the middle of the dance floor. And I just took note, like, who is the big guy in the overalls? That's as much as I thought at that time.
Yeah.
So then when he went on The Biggest Loser, I was a huge fan of the show. Yeah. So that's when I'm personal training. I'm doing my fitness stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, my friend Vinny's on The Biggest Loser. I'm totally watching this season.
Right.
So the Final Four, once you make it to the Final Four, they send them back to their hometown to train for the last 2 months before finale.
Oh, okay, cool.
So he came back to Franklin.
Okay.
And he hit me up along with probably 100 other people because once you meet Vinny one time, you're his best friend.
Okay, gotcha.
He doesn't forget a name or a face. And so he hit me up on Facebook then.
Yeah.
When he was on the show, and he was like, hey girl, I know you're all into fitness and I'm training, I'm in the Final Four on Biggest Loser, and the only way I can like be around people is if they come join me for these boot camps.
Okay.
So do you want to come do these boot camps? So again, I was teaching all these classes, doing all this stuff. But I'm like, Vinny invited me. I'm going to go take this boot camp.
100%. Yes.
And I had a secret agenda that maybe I could get him as my client.
Right.
And then that would really help me in the fitness industry.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Get somebody right off the show.
Yeah.
But I go to the boot camp, and there were like 50 people in this class.
Okay,
it was a hardcore boot camp class. And he was doing them back to back.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, he would do like 5 in a row.
Wow.
And we never talked. At the end of every boot camp, we would just high five and, thanks for coming kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I was amazed at how much weight he had lost.
Okay, yeah.
So in
in
total, he lost 258 pounds.
Incredible.
Yeah, from
I love
500.
That.
So
That's amazing.
And, nobody had seen him because the show was still airing.
Okay.
So when I saw him in person, I was just like, I am amazed. And he's so happy and he's so positive.
Yeah.
Like, wow, I'm just like
already great guy, but then this is like, now he's like feeling himself. He's doing great.
Now, mind you, I still didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
So I was married. So I definitely wasn't thinking anything with Vinny. But, and he actually got engaged on the show. So his engagement and wedding, everything was very public at the time.
Wow.
So we high five, never talk. I remember giving him a necklace from New Zealand that meant new beginnings.
Okay.
And I wrote him a letter.
If you haven't yet checked out How to Love Your Body Throughout on Amazon, please go do so. It is my passion project. It is something that is so special, and it's a tool and guide to help you love yourself more throughout your journey. Whether you're in a bodybuilding prep, whether you're a mama for, or you're someone that's just looking to love the body that they're in right now, I highly encourage you to check out the book on Amazon, as well as you can reach out to me with any questions. And if you're able to share this with a friend or loved one, please do, and help supporting the mission to help everybody love their body throughout their journey.
Jenny Goforth Hickerson. You can find me at goforthwellness.com and Goforth Wellness on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I'm just amazed. Thank you so much for having me at the boot camps and including me. And good luck. Go win the show.
Yeah.
So then we didn't reconnect till 5 years after that.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Like didn't see, didn't talk.
No, didn't think much of it.
So you've already gotten into so where are you at in this time? So you got divorced, and then this is post bodybuilding now that you're within the 5 years.
So I'm still in bodybuilding.
Okay. Gotcha.
When we started talking, and he hits me up and he's like, "Girl, I love your journny. I might want to compete and be like the first biggest loser to do a bodybuilding. I'm all into lifting weights now."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Can I pick your brain on and learn about what team you're on and how it all works?"
Yeah.
And I thought, should I answer him back? I think I will. He's so nice.
Yeah, of course.
So I hit him up and I'm like, "Yeah, we can get together. We can talk about it." So we joke and we say our first date was Whole Foods. And that was actually right before my national competition.
Okay.
And he buys me a Cliff Bar, watermelon, a bunch of healthy things. And I was like, "No, I can't touch
I can't have any of this.
I can't have any of it."
Oh.
He's like, "Not even the watermelon?"
Yeah.
Can't have the watermelon.
Right. But that was a sweet gesture. But
yes.
Yeah.
You get a lot to learn with the bodybuilding. It's very strict.
Yes.
So we quickly fell in love. He was touring with his band, and I play harmonica and I sing and I write and, love the music. That was my first love. And he was like, we could use the girl, because we used to have a girl in our band.
Okay.
And if you want to come on the road with this. And during this time, I'm still negotiating this Taekwondo lease.
Okay. Yeah.
And we go on the road and just fell in love. Immediately, he checked everything. I had this whole list. And I was like, first off, I'm never getting married again. I'm never getting into anything serious again. And he said the same thing, which was funny.
All right.
But I had this list because I was like, if I do date, they have to check every single box off. And Vinny did. And I was like, wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And neither of us had kids of our own or anything. So he had a stepson from his previous, but we just fell in love so fast.
Yeah.
And we get married in 2016.
Yeah.
We got engaged October.
Okay.
We got married the next month because we wanted to.
Okay.
And then we got pregnant the next month.
Okay. All right. So I was like, bam, bam, bam.
I was actually told I couldn't have kids. So when we start dating, and I'm already older, I'm like,
how old are you when you started dating?
So I was 35.
Okay.
I started dating.
Okay. And so you're just like, I can't have kids because of what?
Yeah. So I had PCOS. I had some endometriosis, just hormonal issues. All through my 20s, I was told that it wasn't impossible, but it might be difficult.
Yeah.
And I always thought, you know what, if that's something God says, I'm going to have kids, and I will. If not, I'm not going to go fertility and all of that. Right. Maybe adoption is what Vinny and I talked about.
Okay.
So, but it was not on my radar at all, because I'd never taken birth control.
Right.
Didn't think I could even get pregnant. So we found out. So we got married November. We found out January we were pregnant.
Okay.
And we're like, oh, so now life is really about to change.
Yes. And at this time, you both are still on the road doing shows?
We were doing music.
Okay.
He was getting hired to do motivational speaking and lead massive boot camps.
Wow.
So he actually brought me in because I teach group fitness.
Yes.
And he's never taught the fitness side of it.
Yeah.
So I would lead the boot camp, and then he would do the motivational speaking.
I love that.
Which is kind of what we do together to this day.
Dream team.
Yes.
I love that so much.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we had the music thing, we had the fitness thing, and now we're having a baby.
Yeah. So so you're 35 and so you're about to have a baby. And so is it boy or girl?
Boy.
Okay. And
So I gave birth at 37.
Okay.
With him.
And then, when did you get out of the music stuff? When was that? Or are you still in it?
Yeah, I kind of quit touring after I gave birth to Jagger.
Okay.
So Vinny was still doing that full time.
Gotcha.
He was gone a lot in the beginning, in those early days. And I'd quit the martial arts.
Yes. Okay.
Because I was going to open up my own school.
Yeah.
That didn't work out. I didn't go back to my home school in Cold Springs to coach.
Okay.
I just kind of left martial arts at that time.
Okay.
And I got hired at Orange Theory.
Okay.
And
Is this in the borough or Cold Springs?
This was in Franklin.
Franklin still.
Yep.
Okay. Got it. Okay.
Yep.
So you're at Orange Theory. And wait, what year was this?
I taught for 4 years at
Okay.
Orange Theory.
Okay.
So around the 2016.
Yeah. So Orange Theory was one of my sponsors for my Find Your Fit Festival.
Oh,
so I
awesome.
wonder if like that was also a thing too.
Yeah,
because
maybe we crossed paths around that time.
Exactly. But,
so crazy.
But keep going. I feel like we were like right there at the same places.
Yeah, so I coached Orange Theory.
Yeah.
I was still at the YMCA. I still had a few one-on-one clients.
Cool.
And then after my son, while I was pregnant with my son, we had
Yeah.
the opportunity to take over a gym
Okay.
in Brentwood.
Yeah. You
And
said like Southside, right? Or
it was, this was in the Publix in Brentwood
okay.
originally.
Okay.
And then we moved to another location in Brentwood.
Okay.
And we had my son. We had a huge following, like group fitness following.
Yeah.
And so we would basically run classes from 5, 6, 7, and 9 a.m.
Okay.
And that was it. We didn't offer
Yeah.
anything else. And we did some one-on-one coaching during that time too. That was all while we're figuring out things with the baby now.
Okay. Yeah.
So he would just tag along with us at the gym.
Oh yeah.
And so we lost that space right before pandemic. We briefly moved over to Southside with our group. And
Okay.
during that time, because of pandemic and everything, a lot of our crew we lost.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the end of having that like brick and mortar
Right.
place.
Okay.
So I told my husband one day, I was still coaching Orange Theory. You know, that was hard with childcare, especially with him on the road. I'm
Right.
like, I don't even know if it makes sense
Right.
financially now.
Yeah.
So I said, I think I'm going to buy a computer and go online. I don't know
Okay.
what I'm going to do, but I'm going
Yeah.
to get a computer. I'm going to figure this out online. Nobody was really online at the time.
Right.
I get the computer. That same day, I look up jobs and I land a job with a large fitness company
Okay.
online doing nutrition.
Okay.
So
Gotcha.
that's really when I had learned from bodybuilding. That's when I fell into seeing what nutrition did for my body.
Right. Yes.
And I had got a lot of clients out of that. You know,
Yeah.
they see you compete on stage and
Right.
everybody wants to look like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I landed this huge job.
Uh-huh.
Made more money than I'd ever made in the fitness industry.
Okay. Awesome.
And pandemic hit. So it was actually beautiful that we were
Perfect
online.
timing, kind of. Yeah.
And during that time, that company just started booming. So in the beginning, I was one of 6 trainers doing
Okay.
nutrition. Well, once pandemic happened,
Yeah.
they had so many clients that they were looking to hire more. And they came to me and they're like, who do you know that could jump online and work for us?
Right.
I'm like, well, I'm going to get my husband a computer. And
Yeah.
he knows
He
nutrition.
can do it too. Yeah.
He can do this. So, because he lost a lot of his
I
music
was gonna
jobs.
say he was probably not. Yeah. Going around.
So we both worked for that company.
Okay.
We grew that company
Yeah.
quite large. And I had moved up into like different management roles there.
Okay.
I was with them for 4 years.
Okay.
And I actually created one of their workout programs
Nice.
that sold over 1 million copies.
That's incredible.
I maybe got paid $300 for creating it.
Of course. Sounds about right. Yep.
But I was still, it was a good job. It was a nonstop job. I had clients
Yeah.
all over the world. So
Okay.
messaging people from Australia in the middle of the night,
Yeah.
doing Zooms, that kind of thing with the clients. And
All while raising your kid.
I had my
your child.
son,
Yeah.
and after I had him, I'm like, let's hurry up for one more since I know I can have kids now. Let's try for one more before I'm like way too old for this.
Okay.
And that took a little bit longer. It wasn't near as fast as when we got pregnant with Jagger.
Yeah.
It was taking a long time, and I was kind of in between, like, should I go back to bodybuilding? Because
Yeah.
maybe I'm not going to get pregnant. And I'd kind of just told myself, if I hit 40 and I'm not pregnant, then we'll just be fine with one.
Right.
That's the way it'll be, and that'll be great. So it wasn't happening. I was inching closer to 40.
Yeah.
I got shredded to pieces again.
Right.
Thinking I was going to compete. And the week of like peak week is when I found out I was pregnant with baby girl.
No way.
So I was taking those weekly pictures and I'm like, man, last week I looked amazing. And this week, what is happening?
Right. And you're like, and there it is.
Yeah.
There it
And
is.
being so small, like, I mean, I
Yeah.
showed immediately.
Of course. Yeah.
So we got pregnant. This was 2020.
yeah.
And I'm working for this online company, killing it. So every week they would like grade all the trainers. At this time we were up to like 50 something trainers.
Okay.
And I was always like in the top, definitely top 5,
Yeah.
and never complained about like having a kid and being pregnant. And,
Yeah.
During the pandemic, they came to me and they're like, hey, we need you to go online and teach a class in your living room. And so
Oh,
that's when I
man.
told them I totally can, but just so you know, like I'm massively pregnant.
Okay.
I can still work out. I can
Yeah,
still
of
coach,
course.
but so I did that. And what's funny is they still use that video in ads to this day.
Really? Oh my gosh. Because I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll see myself like they'll use some of my shredded up videos, but definitely the pregnant one
Yeah.
all the time in their ads.
Yeah.
So after I had my daughter, I was up for a massive promotion with them. And they even told me, like, we're promoting 4 trainers. You're up there.
Okay.
You've always been in the top. You've always worked so hard. I even worked right after having a C-section with baby girl. 2 hours later, I'm on my computer working because I wanted to prove that I could handle it all. Yeah. And I could be a great mom and I could stay top of this company. And when we had our big meeting and they promoted the 4 and I was not in the 4. And so they openly said, we didn't promote you because you just had a baby. And I'm like, really? Like, I literally just busted my butt.
Right. I'm literally doing the most for you.
So that was kind of eye-opening to where, they could get rid of me tomorrow. Yeah. Like, I worked so hard and I don't know if I have longevity in this company. Yeah. And, it was a blessing to have that because I learned a lot about the online space. And I built over that time more than 30,000 nutrition plans. Wow. Had a massive amount of transformation. So I learned a lot about coaching that way. But I just knew that, I think I'm going to have to build something for myself. Yeah. And in all these years, I've worked for other people. I've coached this gym, that gym. I've done it all. And after I had my baby girl, I got sick. And I thought it was the stress of it all, just trying to handle it all, thinking I could pull all-nighters so then I could be a great mom the next day, which definitely doesn't work when you're 40.
Right. But or for any age.
For anybody.
Yeah.
But for 2.5 years, so I had her in 2020, 2.5 years after that, I was extremely sick. Okay. And my body was drastically different, not just weight from the baby, but my stomach looked 8 months pregnant. Yeah. Very hard. Okay. Everywhere I went, people asked me when I was due. Right. And, that's a hard pill to swallow.
It is. It's not a
when
great
you're in
feeling.
the fitness industry, especially. Yeah. Yeah. So I quit going out. I wouldn't go anywhere because even when I went back home for Christmas, and at this time my daughter was coming up on 2. Yeah. I went to visit my dad and he patted my stomach and he was like, "We're going to have another one." Oh, man. And I was like, no, it's literally everywhere I go. That was the question. But not just that. That was my biggest thing that I struggled with because I looked so different than what I was used to. Right. But I felt bad. I couldn't get out of bed. My joints ached. Like I literally felt like I was an 80-year-old woman. Right. And I lost myself. And I thought, you know what? I think I got to leave the fitness industry. Okay. Because I can't. I'm getting everybody in shape, but I can't figure this out for myself. Yeah. We spent tens of thousands of dollars trying to figure it out. Okay. So I went to doctor after doctor, functional, regular. Yeah. Most regular doctors wanted to put me on antidepressants. Of course, yeah. I'm like, of course I'm depressed. Look at my stomach. Well, yeah, 2.5 years later, I'm wobbling like I'm pregnant. Right. This is not good. It's not normal. Not normal at all. Yeah. And so I was so depressed and didn't know what else to do. And I go home for Christmas, that Christmas that my dad asked me if I was pregnant. Yeah. And I found a podcast. Okay. And it was Dr. Stephen Cabral. Okay. So he's a functional and neuropathic doctor. Okay, awesome. And I just started listening and I was like, God, this guy knows everything about everything. Right. And so I told my husband, I don't know how, but I'm going to get to this doctor because I don't know who to go to now. Yeah. I've hired coaches. I've done lymphatic therapy. I've done chiropractors. Everything I could think of. Right. And we even went back to the bodybuilding diet, which was horrible for my body at the time. Right. So I did research and I hired one of his practitioners because he's quite famous. So you don't just get to him. Yeah, so for sure. I hired one of his practitioners and she was the first person that said to me, something's very wrong and we're going to figure this out. So we ordered some labs. My gut bacteria lab came back great. Yeah. My heavy metal lab came back horrible. Oh, and that was one that they sent me for free. So I didn't even know what it was. Yeah. And she was like, okay, I actually took this lab to Dr. Cabral because I've never seen numbers like this. Oh, wow. She was like, there is something in you that needs to detox now. Okay. And so I'm like, okay. So then it was a guessing game of what the heck is in me. So I change out my water. I buy a $5,000 water machine. I change out all my cookware. Yep. All my products. And she did say, she goes, this is more than just aluminum in your deodorant. Yeah. She was like, this is something you're ingesting. Right. Which is why I thought, well, it's got to be water. I'm so healthy. Yeah. What am I ingesting that's heavy metals? So I go to bed one night and I literally heard God say, it's your breast implants, get them out. No. Plain as day. And people have asked me, was it a voice? Was it a dream? I'm like, I don't know, but I knew it was God. Oh my gosh. And I woke up the next morning, said to my husband, I figured it out. And he was like, what? Now, mind you, we've spent thousands of dollars already. Right. And every time I thought something was helping me, it wasn't. Yeah. And I said to him the next day, I was like, I know for sure it's my implants. I've had them 15 years. Oh my gosh. Never had any issues that I knew of with them.
Yeah.
But I know what I heard.
Right.
And he was just like, are you sure?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You're going to get them replaced? And I was like, no, I think it just out at this point. So that week I went in for ultrasound and they actually found a rupture. I had silicone rupture.
Yes.
Which would explain all the rashes I had down my body. I had a funky smell under my armpits that no matter what would not go away.
Oh my gosh.
It was really embarrassing. Which is another reason I wouldn't leave my house and I was very depressed. So then finding the rupture, that was confirmation.
Yeah.
They're
like,
coming
this
out.
Is it.
Now they have to come out.
Yes.
And surgery wasn't covered with insurance. So again, it's like another $8,000 to get these things out. But within a month, I scheduled the appointment and I was so sick at the time that I didn't even think I could make it through the surgery.
Right.
Like I remember thinking this could be it. And I told the nurse that morning, I said, I don't know if I'm going to make it through. And she was like, yes, you are. You're so healthy.
Yeah.
You're young. You're healthy. You're fine.
Right.
I was like, I don't know. I feel so sick all the time.
Right.
Like, I couldn't walk upstairs on a daily basis.
Oh my gosh.
So I go in for the surgery. Once I got home and woke up, it literally was like the world went dark to light again.
Really?
And I was like, I'm back.
So like your stomach started to just like come back to normal?
Everything.
Like,
so the rashes, it took a couple weeks for the rashes to go away, which I mean, I was on steroids and creams.
Yeah.
Like I had done it all to try to get this rash situation gone. But immediately, I would say like 24 hours after surgery, Vinny walks in the room and he was like, you are glowing. He was like, I had these dark spots. Like it was just aging. And I even thought, I was like, I'm aging horribly. Maybe it's kids at 40 that's making me really look old.
Right.
And he walked in the room and he was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like your eyes are clear. The bags are gone.
Yeah.
And I got out a journal and I start writing. I haven't journaled in years because I was depressed.
Yeah.
And I'm writing and I'm like, I have all these ideas. Like that go-getter that I was, I
it
feel
just
it
comes
coming
back to life. No,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, let me ask you this. So when you're, do they say why it ruptured or like how it ruptured or like, did they know?
No, they didn't know.
Okay.
But a lot of people ask me because mine were 15 years.
Right.
And, normally they tell you they last about 10 years. At my 10-year mark, I went back to my surgeon to check because I always joked that I was going to go massively bigger next time.
Yeah.
So I was kind of hoping back then, I was like, maybe I'll get them replaced and be like, Dolly Parton, I like this.
Yeah.
So I go to him at the 10-year mark and he was like, no, the kind that you have will never rupture. And you've got another 20 years at least with these.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, okay, never thought I had issues.
Yeah.
And so after I had my daughter, I was nursing and like 3 months into nursing, I just completely woke up one day without milk.
Yeah.
Maybe that was like God's protection or something.
Yeah.
I also had COVID twice during that time.
Okay.
Like my immune system was so shot that I stayed sick, which is part of why I never got out of bed because every other week, like I'd have a good week where I'd get up and go to the gym.
Yes.
I might make it through a workout or I might just lay on the ground,
Yeah.
which was also not like me.
Right.
But I just felt always so sick and I question if COVID kind of attacks the weaknesses of your body. This is just me assuming that maybe COVID had something to do with it during that time.
Yeah.
And then, it took 2.5 years of me trying to figure out. I thought something happened in the birth, which was
that's
wrong
what
with the
I'm
stomach.
thinking,
I'm
like,
like, I had my tubes tied. So I thought maybe something happened and, I just can't get my body back.
That's so scary. And it just,
So crazy.
and it just goes to show that like with like the medical system, just especially as a female, like I'm sure you had to advocate so many times for yourself. And like, I've had to do that with my eye and everything. And it's just, you want answers. You're just trying to understand. You're just trying to figure it out. And and it's so disheartening that almost like you want to give up, but you're like, but I feel miserable. So like, I can't, you know what I mean? Like we got to figure out, we have to overcome, we have to adapt. We got to like, that. So I love that God was able to provide for you that clarity, you know what I mean? Of listening because I mean, I know he shows up in all of those ways and he has for me a million times. If I listen to it, that's another story. Right. But, but so when when you're going through all of this, how was the relationship with you and Vinny? Because again, you have, 2 little ones now, right?
Right.
And, because I guess, was he back out doing stuff or was he still wasn't back?
He was still with the company we were with, the fitness company, and he was still touring.
Okay.
And he was taking on everything else.
So you
in
left
the
the company first and then he left or you?
During that time I was sick and before I found out it was the implants. I told him, I think I need to quit this job because I think this job is killing me.
Yeah.
I literally work 24/7.
Right.
Go on vacation, the computer goes with me. So I briefly worked for a smaller fitness company in between starting my own.
Okay.
Not making like less than half of what I was making with this company. But we decided I would quit and then he would stay on. And that way I could help him with the job too, since I know I can answer emails and that kind of thing. So the day that I put in my notice, we were moving to Murfreesboro. So we were kind of selling the house in Spring Hill, moving out to Murfreesboro. I had to wait till that closing to quit the job.
Yeah.
So the day we closed, I put my 2 weeks in.
Okay.
And immediately they're like, okay, see ya.
Yeah.
The next morning I wake up to get out his computer and I was like, hey, I'll see how many emails you have this morning. Cause that was the bulk of our job was check-ins and emails.
Yeah.
And I go to open up his computer and he's completely logged out of everything. So without notice.
So they just like let him go.
They just let him go.
Wow.
And then they contact him a couple hours later and they were like, we have this policy when one spouse leaves, we let the other one go.
What?
We're like, wow, that would be really nice to know.
Is that even real? Like, oh my God.
And because we're 1099, none of that, like even them saying, hey, we're not going to promote you because you just gave birth.
Yeah.
We're contractors.
Yeah,
so
you're at their disposal.
There's nothing you can really do about it.
Yeah. So at that point, so the house is sold and then you are in the Murfreesboro house.
Yes.
Like you get in there, but you both don't
And we're
have
like, okay, God's going to provide. Like our mega jobs that pay the majority of our bills is gone.
Right.
Vinny was touring and luckily, he's had a great career and he can still do that. But when he was home, he was taking on the kids. I would fake it with them because I wanted to be such a good mom. And I love being a mom.
Yeah,
like way more than I ever thought I even would.
Right.
So I would do stuff with them, like take them to the park or whatever. But then I was wrecked the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And couldn't get out of bed or couldn't get off the couch.
Right. You took one thing.
He took on a lot and it really took a toll. I joke with him because I'm like, you've only really known me pregnant or like sick because everything happened so fast with us,
right?
And then it's just a whirlwind of we're having kids and now I'm sick, and he really took on a lot. And he got to a point where doctors were telling me I was fine. Everyone was telling me like your blood work's good, you're healthy,
yeah, you're great.
And so he even got to think like maybe she is just depressed, like, because I would say things like I hate my life right now, and I didn't mean them. I loved my family.
Exactly.
Like that was all I'd ever wanted.
Yes.
And I would say that because I hated the way I was.
Well, when you're someone that is such a like high energy naturally, right?
Yeah.
Like I tell people all the time, they're like, well, how are you always like, whatever. I'm like, because that was God's gift to me. Like I've always been like more positive, just like a higher energy, whatever. And when I got really low, it was just completely, like you said, like dark and light. Like it was so bad. And it was just like, you're not creative anymore. You don't know. And then when my autoimmune stuff flared up, I would sit on this couch and like, I can't get up.
Yeah.
Like it took everything in me to get up. And from doing all of the things that I did, and you know what I mean? It just like, you feel like you're on top of the world.
Yeah. When you're such a go-getter.
Yeah. And
hard.
then it's literally, you're sitting there. So, I can't imagine his like perspective too of being like, I don't know like how to help you. You know what I mean? Because I know for me, it was like people like, I don't know how to help you. Like, and they didn't realize what was actually coming down was like when I'm saying I'm, exhausted or whatever, they're like, yeah, you're doing a lot. It's like, yeah, like stuff's shutting down literally, and like, but it was hard to explain. So I understand how hard that is to like.
Yeah. So he said at the time, all he knew to do was just take care of the kids and keep making money and, kind of doing his thing. And we've had many conversations about it now because he was like, I've realized now how sick you actually were. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that he didn't believe me before, but he's just such a positive person that he's like, gosh, just, I would wake up and he's like, how you feel today? Want to go to the gym? I'm like, I guess, I'm dragging.
Yeah.
So that's hard to be around too.
Right. For sure. Yeah. And because he's got his own health journey and I'm sure struggles and stuff because, being at that weight and going through all the things and being so public, right? There's that pressure, expectation, you know, to stay in this, and especially if you're going to speak. So I can see that from that lens too. And he wants you, y'all like the power couple. You're that team.
And we help each other, like we are each other's accountability partners.
Yeah. And so that's gotta be hard to be in that kind of I guess, what is it, 360 or, or 180 like of that where it's like, so when you finally started to feel better, you start feeling all these ideas, you're feeling creative again and everything like that. So is that when you started your business? Like that's when...
Yeah. So I decided I was going to go back and get that certification to be an integrative practitioner.
Okay.
So that I could run labs and I could help people. Because there's so many people, not just with breast implant illness, but so many people walking through life with autoimmune or hormonal issues. And, they think this is just how it's going to be, or, this is the weight I'm going to be at, and they give up. And so I wanted to do that so that I could help people actually get to the root. Yeah. And I learned during that process that it is so much more than just working out and eating right.
Yeah, say that
as
again.
A young trainer.
Say that again. Yep.
As a young trainer, I didn't get it.
No.
Even I worked with moms all through, my whole adult life. I totally didn't get it. I didn't get I thought they were all excuses.
Yeah.
I didn't get the struggle until I went through it and went through all the health issues. I'm like, oh man, I get it now. And I want to teach people to just feel healthy, that it's not about getting that shredded body or that six pack, and that's all I wanted was my life back. I was like, I just want to be able to run at the park with my kids.
Right. Yeah.
And my joints feel good and I feel good.
Well, isn't it so wild how like when you don't have your health, it's like you cannot do anything else. And people take that for granted every day.
Yeah.
So that's why I try to explain to people multiple times. It's like, again, it's so much more, and whether they're super fit or they're not or whatever, that like there's so much more to a healthy lifestyle journey than just working out and eating clean.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and things that I didn't prioritize before either, like the sleep. I didn't prioritize taking rest at all. Like I didn't rest for years, like ever.
Yeah.
Same. And it's just like when you look back at it, I looked at it as kind of like a flex. Like I was like, I'm rolling in here, I'm training all these clients. I mean, I was like, you couldn't tell me different. You know, and I just felt like resting was such a weakness, and taking time for myself. It's like, for what? Why don't you do that? Like, why? You know what I mean?
Same.
And so I wanted to ask you like that. Like, do you think it comes from childhood, like from being like that, from immediately, kind of that moment you talked about with the weightlifting of like people laughing at you, or like that you felt like you needed to prove something, or like where do you think that comes from?
I think it is that I always felt like I had to prove something because I'm so small.
Yeah.
So I always like to choose things that people didn't expect.
Yeah.
Like maybe I would have been more athletic growing up if I would have given in to that side of me. But
because do you think that, are you only child or do you have siblings or?
I have an older brother and a younger brother.
Okay.
But we're so spread out that we're kind of only.
Okay. Gotcha. And so are they both of them from like you're both the same parents, or are they other like?
So my younger brother is half.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
We have different dads.
Okay, yeah, because I have I have 4 half siblings, but 3 half siblings. My brother Josh is like the one that lived with me, so I feel like we grew up together. So, but anyway, so with that, because I always like to know, because I've battled with this as well, of like that, the chip on the shoulder kind of mindset, or like the, you know what I mean? Like the, like, why is that? And so as I get older, like I wrestle with it of, I always have to keep my intentions in check. And be like, hey everyone, thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the LYB podcast. If you ever have any questions about wanting to train with Dandy Fitness or getting your movement in, please feel free to reach out to Danny at dandyfitness.com, as well as you can follow me on all social media platforms, Dandy Fitness 1. Why are you doing this? Or like, what, and having to be like, to stop the ego lifting or stop the whatever, and just be very plain about how it is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
To where it's like, it's not, again, I don't have to prove anything to anybody.
Yeah.
Like I just have to prove to myself, like how I feel and how, and all the things. And if I love myself, then that's all there is, And I think that so many times women, especially when, because for you, it was the being shorter, right? For me, it was the larger frame. Like, so there's always these things that come with like our physical attributes.
Right.
And it's like, that's what I hate to see, because I'm sure anybody ever looking at you, like, I don't know how you grew up and stuff, but like probably wouldn't have been like, like you're not capable of stuff.
Yeah.
But it's exciting to prove to them or to do incredible things. So I try to look at it as like, well, I just do incredible things. Like it's not even, you know what I mean? It doesn't even matter if they see it or if they don't, or if they don't care or whatever.
Yeah.
I just know that I can do exceptional things, and I'm going to keep doing those exceptional things.
Yeah.
And
I learned this year, we did a Bible study with my church, and we did the Enneagram.
Yeah.
So I learned my Enneagram number is 3. It is the achiever that always feels like I have to have a goal or else I feel like I'm failing.
Yeah.
So, during that time I was sick, I felt like a massive failure.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I was still excelling at my job, but if you're not like going after something, it's like, okay, what's next? What's next? Yeah. And, I definitely slowed down from even starting my own business, and there's days where I'm like, maybe I should do powerlifting. I could be really good at that.
Right.
What's my next going to be?
Yes.
But I'm really happy just getting my health back because it took some time to rebuild and then, get back into actually training. And
how long was that for you?
So I'm just 2.5 years out from that surgery.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm just now like, okay, my body's responding.
Yeah.
I'm feeling great. I'm still feeling, from the surgery, immediately felt more energy.
Right. But it's still not, like how, no. And so I'm glad
there was a lot of trauma that happened even after, having the baby and working that job and not sleeping, I did a lot of damage to my body.
Yeah. And I think it's so special of you to share like the number because I try to do that too and be as transparent with things so that people understand that it's not just in like 6 months, I'll be back to whatever. Right. Like I didn't know when I started with my hormone specialist if I would ever get my cycle back. Like I hoped, but I was like, I don't know. I may not be able to have kids. I don't know how this is going to go because I haven't had it for 3 years.
Yeah.
So like, let's see. And then it was like 3 months working with her and I got it back, Nice. So it's kind of like, oh, that's possible. Okay, cool. So then like, can we raise my thyroid naturally? Okay, that's possible. Okay, cool. Like, can we fix the gut biome? We're trying to do that now. Like, okay, so it's exciting, but it's also still like, I think so many times people are trying to put you in that box of like, oh, you're good now. Check. And you're like, it's not like that, especially when you have autoimmune or you have flare-ups or whatever. Because like the scary part for me, and I had to have a lot of like God's grace with this, and I was very resentful in the beginning, and like now I'm sure you've heard on some of the podcasts, but now I've come more to like a forgiving state to where I'm like at peace with it, because I do believe He puts me into things that only help me excel and exceed, with the struggle. But was that like when I just like that I had such a hard time with it with like the eye stuff and whatever and the feeling not my best, and it just got to a point where it was like I didn't feel like myself and everything, but I think that so many times people were like, oh, well, like you got your eye, like you went to the doctor, so like you're just gonna get better. It's gonna get better. And I had to simply say, like, guys, like I actually don't know. Like I don't want to say because I love to manifest, like how you did the top 5 thing. I'm the same way. I was like, I'm never gonna pay to live in Nashville. Never gonna pay to live in Nashville. And then I got an influencership and didn't have to pay to live in Nashville. Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and so it was a beautiful moment. So it's stuff like that it is power in your thoughts. So I hate saying it like to people like it's not, but it, you know what I mean? And so again, I am praying for healing and hoping for all those things. But I don't know when that will come, So it's kind of like, I have to be like, you know what? Right now in this body present, I feel great today. Cool. And that was very hard I'm sure for you too, because it's like you're always looking at the future, the goals and whatever. And the same thing of like I was asked to do a triathlon, a high rocks, and a half marathon all last week. Wow. And I like to do it for like coming up, right? And I was like, cool. I love that I have fit friends. I have people that want to do big things, but I was like, I don't want to, like, no, like, not to be like, whatever. I would love to have some more goals like that. But right now, I just am having this whisper in my ear that's like, you got to be good with right now. Mm-hmm. You got to be good with like, you can do some cardio, you can do some strength training and feel good and feel sexy and feel strong, whatever with that before you keep pushing and get to that, And I think that again, because God knows that tunnel vision, you get so into it, that becomes your focus. Like with bodybuilding, if you would have got back into that, that's your focus, and could have, even though it was 2.5 years, it could have, I have girls that reach out to me that they talked about their issues with bodybuilding stuff. And it's 20 years from now. It's taking them 20 years to feel good again. And so it's like, so for my stuff, I try to be like, I'm here, I'm feeling better, but it's still not how I was. I'm not trying to get back to how I was, but just I want to feel what it feels like to be my best right now in this body. Yeah. So it actually, in full circle, has taught me to be more present. Yeah. With like right now.
That's exactly where I am. For so long after I had my daughter, I kept comparing myself to what I was before. Yeah. Even after I had my son, I was like, well, I got it back, it was lean. I had the 6-pack again. And I kept comparing myself and just being so frustrated. Yeah. And now I'm just like, I focus on, and even with having the implants removed, that was a mind shift because I'm fitting in clothes different and I look very different and I'm struggling, with inflammation still. So it took a long time for me to really just be okay with where I am.
Yeah.
And just to kind of let the past go. Not that I'm not proud and,
oh yeah, for
you
sure.
know, from everything that I did before, but to look at how far I've come now in just 2 years.
Yeah.
And just like you said, taking it day by day and embracing exactly where you are and loving yourself where you are.
Yeah.
You know?
And exactly loving your body throughout. And that's the biggest thing is that like I watch people day in and day out hope for this thing that's never coming.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's almost like they're out, like this is such a bad example, but like I have it on the forefront because like Titanic, like it's like they're on that, like the raft and like, but no one's coming. You know what I mean? Like they're not going to get them. Like you're the one that's in the water. Like, you know, and it was one of those things where I'm like, it's such a sad existence. You know, to always be like, well, I can't wait till I retire and then I can start living.
Right.
I can't wait till I'm in that body so I can start living. I can't wait till I lose this weight because then I'll find the love of my life. And like, I can't. I'm like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
We're just pushing off that, you know what I mean? Like to that hope that, you know, because of our body, everything is going to get better.
Right. And I've worked with so many women that hit that weight goal.
Yeah.
And they're still not happy.
Correct.
They still don't see.
Because that's not the problem.
That's not the problem.
That's not the problem. You don't love your body. You don't love yourself. And that's the whole thing.
Losing the weight's not going to make it any better.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like, you know, it's kind of like with like, I'll give an example of like with a guy, like whatever. It's like if a guy is like a jerk and whatever, just because he looks better doesn't mean he's not a jerk now. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he didn't change, like it's just a different body. So, so again, I think that we've been sold this standard from beauty standards in society that once you do this, like your dreams will come true. Like you will have everything and it doesn't fix everything. And even if I would have stopped bodybuilding, like I should have stopped after the first two and then just been like, I'm good. But because it was like you get that bug and you're like, let's
got the
keep,
bug.
yeah, let's keep going. And so after the first two, like really then like I felt so good. And I remember putting this dress on. I was like, man, you look so great. Like, and I mean, I got last and I'm like, let's go. Like, I mean, you know, and I'm just like, I wasn't mad that I got last. I was kind of like, okay, like whatever. I still did amazing. Like, and I had fun.
Because how many people actually do that?
Right. And got on stage and like, so I felt so accomplished. I mean, I went to go get my Chipotle chicken quesadilla, which they stopped making, by the way. They just do the stupid little kids one, which was just chicken and rice. And I was like, bro, like that's all I've been having.
Right.
So like, no, I don't want that. I was like, can you just like make me the greasy, you know, the one from like years ago. I was like, this is what I've been looking for like 9 months. Yep. And the girl was like, I can't help you. I was having like a breakdown. I was like, okay, I'm leaving. Like it was so bad. Anyway, but I just remember being like I was so good, but then it was like, you know, trying to eat even the food after. I was so in pain and I just didn't feel good. And I was like, you know, whatever. But like, I really did love the way I looked then, but I still was like, you're really small and like, this isn't sustainable. You know what I mean?
I felt really unhealthy.
Yeah. Like
I was so skinny.
Yeah. Like I look at those pictures, I'm like, dang. Like,
on stage, it looks good. In person, people are like, are you okay?
No, yeah, exactly. And I remember like, yeah. And again, it was one of those things where I felt good in terms of like the progress and all the stuff. So there's so much good that came with bodybuilding, you know?
Yeah.
But again, it is that whole thing of, you know, looking at it and looking at yourself and not kind of recognizing yourself. And that was a weird thing for me too. And it was like a clothes fit better finally for first time in my life, you know, because clothes are made for like, you know what I mean? Like whatever. And so that was really nice. But that was probably like the most benefit because honestly, even in my build, I still felt like I was bigger than everyone else. You know what I mean? And you could say that was body dysmorphia or you could say that was who the people I'm around or whatever. But I still didn't, you know, feel like it was never going to be enough for society. And like, I learned that very quickly as I was coming down that it like still wasn't like that that notion that when I was younger that like kind of told myself that like, well, maybe one day when I'm there, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so it made it that validity of like, no, like what you've been saying is true. Like you got to be good with where you're at throughout this. Yeah. Because really like they're never going to accept you. Like, and even if they do,
and
who
bodybuilding's
cares?
that way. I mean, it can change from show to show.
Yeah. Exactly.
You know, it's funny you said that at that national show I went to. I felt so proud of myself for making it there, driving myself there, being on that stage. I was definitely in the last group to go up, you know, which I was like, it is what it is. And I got nervous and I had totally missed my whole turnaround thing.
It's okay.
But I was just so proud that I made it there.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and you should, as you should. There were girls that would come off stage. I would sponsor the events. I would talk at the workshops, all the things, whatever. They come off the stage, and I was like, "How'd you do?" I'm like, "Well, we'll see." I'm like, "No, I'm not asking how the judges said you did.
Feel?
How do you feel?"
Yeah.
Well, I mean, when they tell me, like, I'll know. I'm like, okay, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, that's not what I'm saying. Like, you know,
but I clearly saw there. I was like, for me to go pro, it's gonna take a few years.
Well, and it's sacrifice.
Not that it's impossible.
No, but it's sacrifice.
It's a whole lot of sacrifice.
And you have to, again, we all get the choice of how I want to live this life. So it's like, again, if you're healthy enough and whatever, and blessed in that. So it's like, you have to ask yourself, what is it? And for me, I was going through grief still. So for me, like, being alone wasn't the best thing, but it was more of like, that's kind of how I dealt with it and I coped with it. So for me, like, putting myself into this actually, like, helped me get through that grief. So again, it's not like I can look back and be like, I'm upset that it happened. Am I upset that I didn't have a proper coach and that had, like, more guidance and stuff like that to kind of, like, rein me back a little bit? Like, yes. But again, I do think it helped me through.
Yeah. You and I are very similar in that way, you know, because I was kind of running from, like, my life and you know, the situation I was in with my ex and everything. And so I was very happy in the things that I was doing with the competing in Taekwondo and then going off and doing all the bodybuilding stuff. Yeah. You know, I had something to look forward to and I had that goal. And then when those things ended, I was like, what am I, like, I'm just going to go home to my dog. And
right. Well, do you think that it's sitting with yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I had a hard time with that for a long time.
Yeah, 100%. So let me ask you this. When, because you were married for how long, the first marriage?
12 years.
Okay. So that was like, I guess was that like out of high school type of?
College. So
okay.
18.
Okay. Yeah. So when that, you know, kind of came to an end, like, was it mutual or was it kind of, did something happen or?
No, I think we just grew apart.
Okay.
You know, and I had chased the music dream and he helped me with that.
Okay.
For sure. And, you know, we just had different goals. And, you know, if you don't pray together and grow together, it's very easy. We were living our own lives. You know, he was up and coming in his career and I was chasing all of my fitness stuff and, you know, still pursuing music and that kind of thing. So it wasn't anything, like, it wasn't horrible, but I was so sad looking at my life thinking, you know, watching my friends have families and then their kids were getting old. And I'm like, wow, you know, what am I doing? Like, you know, and so I remember when I met Vinny, I just felt so happy. I was like, I don't know what we're doing with our careers or lives or we're like the same person with, you know, doing our music and fitness stuff and figuring it out. But, you know, and then when we got pregnant, like, it was obviously life-changing, but I just felt so fulfilled. Like, this is what I've been missing all these years.
Wow. It's so beautiful because it's like, again, with something that was viewed as kind of maybe a negative or something that was sad, right? God was still able to provide something amazing. You know what I mean? And I really do believe that because, you know, I could sit and ask myself, like, why did all this happen, you know, with the last relationship and all these things and whatever. And then I'm like, but when I really look at it, like, I learned so much about myself and I learned things that, like, what I won't tolerate, what I will tolerate, you know, I mean, just a lot of things that, like, until I can experience more of that kind of thing, like, I never will really know, you know? And so you have to put yourself in there. So me, like, kind of being alone for that long, it was good, but then also it's like, okay, now I'm just to the point where I'm like, I'd say about like the past year where I'm like, okay, I'm starting to feel healthier. You know, I feel like I have things kind of covered here, you know, and I'm doing good. My girls come and train at the LYB and I feel good about, you know, dating fitness and stuff. So it's like, okay, you know, now I feel like I'm ready to date. Because I tried to jump into it and it didn't really work out, you know, and it was just the wrong reasons and it was just very clouded in my, what I knew that was my purpose, you know? And so now it's like, it gives me a positive hope that there was that for you in terms of, you know what I mean? Yeah. Just being able to, like.
And I would say during this time, really lean on God, you know, and for so long I didn't. I was just trying to do my own thing and look at everything I can accomplish.
Will your existence,
you know, like I'll go to church and I'll pray, but, you know, I'm not really happy in my life. So I don't know what God's going to tell me in that regards. And, you know, when things came to the end with that situation, you know, I heard God say, no matter what, I've got you. Like, I'm here.
Yeah.
And so I knew whether it's the right decision, the wrong decision. You know, I felt stuck for so long. I was like, I need to go make a move.
Yeah.
And I remember kind of coming to that realization in Taekwondo towards the end of me competing. There was a grandmaster that I was at an instructor camp and we were sparring for like 2.5 hours. We had all the gear on and we're like fighting each other the whole day. And most of the instructors were way ahead of me. They had been doing it their whole life, you know, and they're like way higher ranked than me. And I got called out. I would say there's probably like 50 instructors all sparring each other. And the grandmaster stopped everything. And he was like, Miss Goforth, come here. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, yes, sir. Yeah. I like go up there in all my little gear. And he was like, you fight with heart, but you in your head. Yeah. And he goes, this rolls over into every aspect of your life. Correct. You overthink everything. Yes. And he goes, I'll watch you fight. And before you think about what your move is, you've already gotten hit in the head. Right. And I'm like, that is eye-opening. Yeah. Because I've lived my whole life worried about what other people were going to think. Yep. Wondering, you know, should I do this or that, to so much so I don't do anything. Right. You know, and I overthink things. So I heard God say, just move. Just keep going forth. Yes. You know, whether you're on the right path, the wrong path, I'm going to get you back on the right path. Right, you know, I'm going to be there.
Yeah. Oh, so, thank you for sharing that, because that is beautiful, and it is so true. And it really is when you sit, and for people listening, like, and it's about you and like, what can I do and how can I accomplish this and what accolades that I'm going to get, like, and you get in that mindset. I mean, it is only going to be to your detriment. Like, you cannot, like, that's when you're gonna get hit with a health thing, or you're like God's gonna knock you off the pedestal a little bit, you know, and so it is one of those things where, like, and even with the eye, like, I wasn't gonna stop. Like, I still continued after my eye flared up, and so I had the scars on it, and then after that, like, I was like, I'll pivot and I'll do figure. That'll be better, and like, you know, and it was me being in there on the Stairmaster, and I mean, I just cried because I got these lab results back that was like, your liver's failing and this is happening. I still feel like it was a false read, but like, whatever. Anyway, so I sat there and I was like, this is it. Like, and I mean, so it was literally that would have been like 8 weeks before the show. And I was just like, I'm out. I'd already paid for the suit. Didn't get that money back. I already paid for the show. Didn't get that money back. You know what I mean? Like, all this stuff that I spent to do it.
A lot of money. And
I had to be like, take it. Like, I literally have never felt like, at that point, even when I was really my grief and stuff, like that's a whole other story. But like, that right there, that was this past June, and I'm sitting there on the Stairmaster crying, and I was like, you've stripped everything from me, because like, the doctor was like, you have to stop your creatine, your protein powder, fight, you know, all the things, clean it out, no caffeine, nothing, whatever, and like, let's go, like, and let's see if we can because if we don't, you're gonna have to like get like, I mean, it was like that serious, like, your liver's messed up, and I'm like. So now we're going to like the whole mindset of like, oh, I'm gonna do a show, I'm willing it, whatever. And then it's like, you know, you actually could like end up at the hospital, like, you know? Yeah. And so to have that happen, I was like, that is the only way, because I already couldn't see really well. So I'm already doing all the steroid drops and whatever. Yeah. But like, it was that moment that I was like, all right, God, like, I got it. Yeah. You know, and
I'm just gonna sit with you and
yeah, exactly. And so I just cried, and I was like, okay, well, gonna do a little workout, and then we'll go inside and just kind of have like a sad day. And then I told my coach the next day, whatever. And anyway, ended up having the most beautiful birthday party. You know, had it here. I actually ate the food, and and I saw girls that were on prep that came, and I was like, I'm not jealous of you one bit. Right. I don't care. You know what I mean?
I'm enjoying my day.
Yeah. And then the next day, the next month, I sponsored Nashville Fit Show, and I was like, this is gonna be the last time I do this. I feel like, and sponsoring, and I at that moment I decided, either I go with a bodybuilding coach or I go with my hormone specialist. And I was like, I'm gonna go with the hormone specialist, no matter no matter what repercussion happens, right? If I got to go through all this stuff, I got to put on the weight, all the things. So I did that, and I mean, it was the best decision I could have made. But I would not have had that if it wasn't for something so drastic.
Yeah.
you know?
Same. I would have never fallen into the kind of coaching that I'm doing now, the wellness side of things.
Right. And so it's beautiful though, because now you can help so many women and you have that different lens now, right? And that's how I feel, because a lot of my girls have autoimmune, PCOS, all the things that like, you know, that at least if I don't have it, I can sympathize now and get when they're having a flare up and tailor it differently, you know?
Yeah.
So I did want to ask you, so you have are you still all online though? Like with your business?
I have a couple clients that I still do one-on-one coaching with.
Okay.
Very early in the morning, like
you
5
go
and
to their
6 a.m.
place, or
they come to me. So I have a gym in my garage.
Nice. Okay, cool.
So they come to me.
Okay.
So 5 and 6 a.m. I still do my in-person, which I love. And then I am online doing nutrition, group coaching, one-on-one coaching.
How were you able to build that back up after you left? Like, because when you left that company, did people kind of follow you and...
No, it was pretty abrupt that I left. In fact, I had a woman reach out to me this week and she was like, girl, I've been trying to find you.
Yeah.
Which I'm out there, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why she struggled to find me, but she was like, I called the company, you know, because you're still listed on there. And I've been gone a minute, but they haven't changed their website and stuff.
Yeah.
So she was like, I called and I couldn't get your info from them.
Oh
and
my gosh.
she said, I'd signed up to do a consultation with them.
Yeah.
And then I found your Instagram.
Yes.
Okay, and I
great.
jumped on a call with her immediately.
Yeah.
And I remembered everybody I worked with, even though I had hundreds of people. But I remember the ones that were very consistent and checking in, and so that was kind of cool. But we just kind of rebuilt a lot of word of mouth, because we were coaching. We had our gyms here and our classes here. I had a big following from like all the classes that I taught before. And people, you know, just watch you on social media.
Yeah.
So that grew. And now I'm just to the point where I'm really growing it to where I think in the next 4 to 6 months, I'll have other coaches come on.
Okay, awesome.
And do a lot of the one-on-one training.
That's awesome. Well, congrats. I love that.
Thanks.
And so as we're closing out, I do love to, you know, I always ask this question. What is something that you love about your body?
Yeah. What I love about my body. So I've always liked my arms. So like in the gym, you know, that's like the first thing that bulks up on me. But I'll tell you, like, what I really love, which sounds weird, is my scars, like my C-section scars.
Okay.
I had 2 babies from, from that
You should
scar.
be proud of them.
And, you know, that's something that took me a while. After I'm like, oh, wow, you know, my stomach's going to look drastically different for a long time. But I'm so grateful and so thankful for what God's given me and just the ability, like our bodies are amazing.
Right.
You know, like that you can be stretched that far and give birth to these humans.
Right. No, you're incredible. I applaud all my super moms that I work with or that, you know,
and
come on
I've
here.
embraced all the scars, you know, like the implant scars and that's taken some time, you know, mentally to look at yourself and be like, I'm okay with this.
Yeah.
Like, this is me.
Right.
And it's a representation of everything I've been through.
Yeah.
And then like the point where I am now and like helping so many people.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
No, that's amazing. And it's beautiful to see you doing what you love and what you're passionate about, you know, and you have a beautiful family. And I really do want to meet Vinny now. Like,
we'll get him on the podcast.
Yeah. Like, I feel like he'd be such a good time. And I kind of want to go back and watch the episodes and stuff like that. It was like a month ago that I met Jen Wiederstrom, who was on The Biggest Loser, like after all that and stuff. And we worked out together. And so she was kind of telling me about the show and, you know, all that stuff and everything. So I'm like, man, it's just like all these like things keep coming back. And I'm like, man, I really do want to look at that. But thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
And yes, I'm so glad we finally could connect. And we still have so much more to talk about. But until next time.
Yeah.